Okay, I think now we are live.
We are
Hangout
live.
is there live. Okay. Well, welcome everybody, especially Jeroen Diepemaat and Benedict Bente for joining for this discussion or introduction about TTIP. Recently, there's been a lot of debate on TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, which is a round of negotiations on trying to reach a free trade agreement between the United States and Europe. The goal is to create one bigger market, since we've seen that also within Europe has given a lot of benefits, and also the goal is to remove a lot of barriers that currently exist and obstacles that prevent producers from introducing their products in both the United States and in Europe, and that we still see differences there. Of course, it's not so simple as just to say that you remove barriers and everything is fine. It has a lot of implications on both legal, political, diplomatic, and also geopolitical areas. And since this is at the moment one of the key issues on European debate, and one of the things that is really what we see Europe taking a very public discussion all across the continent, we thought it was very good to have a discussion on this. And during the coming Congress in Rotterdam, we will also have a session on transatlantic trade and investment partnership, especially on the shipping, with the transatlantic shipping, what kind of consequences it will have and what kind of opportunities lie there. We will try there to give a SWOT analysis. In this case, we will go into details of the TTIP agreement because, of course, we cannot discuss this within 1 hour here. We are hoping to use this as a start for the debates, and we will be able to discuss further in Rotterdam, where also others can join into the debate. If you have any questions or any remarks, you can post them on Twitter or in the chat possibility in the Hangout. You can also send me direct messages if you have my phone number, or do it over Twitter, Facebook, whatever you please. Maybe Jeroen, you can give a short introduction about yourself, on who you are.
Yeah, of course. My name is Jeroen Diepemaat. I'm from the Netherlands, and right now I'm almost for 10 years active within GOVD, since 2005 and since 2006 as well in VVD, the main and leading political party in the Netherlands. And I've been active in LYMEC since I was bureau member of GOVD, and later on I have been a bureau member of LYMEC and also president until last year. And right now I'm just interested liberal that wants to join this discussion.
Yeah, thank you. And Benedict, can you also give a short introduction about yourself? I see your microphone seems to be off. We don't hear anything from Benedict.
Yeah, his voice is muted.
Yeah. Well, as he sorts his voice out, I can introduce myself as well. I'm Timo Roeleveld. I also live in the Netherlands. I'm a bureau member for LYMEC, the European Liberal Youth. Have been so for 1 year, and also before I've been active and especially very interested in the European political discussions. And I really hope that today we get or we reach some kind of basis for the discussion that we will continue to have in Rotterdam, and where we will also try to get kind of common agreement. And since I'm responsible for the political content, political policies within the European Liberal Youth, I'm especially interested in TTIP and how we'll proceed with this. Benedict, I see you are back. Can you please give an introduction about yourself as well?
Thank you so much, and sorry for the delay. I had some technical difficulties. My name is Benedict Bente. I'm 26 years old, from Germany. I've been involved with the liberal students in Germany since 2009, and now with the party for 3 years. I've been involved with LYMEC for over 2 years now, and I was elected as an individual member section delegate a couple of weeks ago, actually. So I'm looking forward to the Rotterdam Congress. And I'm interested in the topic because for me personally, I think it's the biggest chance for American-EU relationships since the invention of the NATO. So I'm really trying to push this topic, and I'm glad to see that people are interested in that.
Yes, welcome as well, Jeroen and Benedict. To structure this discussion a little bit, we will go into some of the perceived or presented advantages of the TTIP agreement, or what we are striving for with the TTIP agreement, and we'll also go into one of the things that is most heavily debated, the ISDS, the Investor State Dispute Settlement, and in the preparation for this, we also talked about the food standards, which of course is also very important since it is very close to our safety. But first, I want to start with to give an idea of what we are talking about. In 2012, trade between the United States and Europe has been in both directions approximately between 250 billion euros, going from Europe to the United States in goods, and also the other way around, approximately the same numbers. In this trade, there are also tariffs that have to be paid, and those tariffs go up till approximately 30% for synthetic clothing, and also some other barriers have already been removed. So we are going in the right way, but TTIP gives the opportunity to remove this completely and to come, in fact, with a kind of plan on which steps to take to go towards one open free market. If we remove the barriers, if we remove these tariffs, there will be a much wider choice for customers to buy products, and also for people to so there will be more products and also more opportunities for not only big corporations but also for medium and small-sized companies to move their products from the United States to Europe and vice versa. I was wondering, how do you perceive this? Do you think it's a good opportunity, or is it something we should be wary about, of opening our market in Europe to the United States? Jeroen, if you could go first.
No, I think it's exactly what Benedict said. It's one of the biggest chances for transatlantic partnership in decades. Because imagine that right now many people, not only young people, but I think also older people use the internet to buy goods, to go to web shops, buy a new phone, or much simpler, order a suit from China or from the States. And this is the first step to make it easier to trade between different countries. And it fits in the picture of this time, that you do not only do business within the borders of your own country, or even within the borders of your own continent, but across continents. And I think that TTIP will make it easier to do this, and it's a big opportunity for people themselves. That's the first advantage, and the second advantage is it's also easier for businesses to do business amongst each other, and that creates economic growth, that creates jobs, etc. So I think there are many advantages.
Yeah, Benedict, one of the things that is very important in trying to come with creating one open market is that the same what we see in Europe is reaching common standards. Do you see special difficulties on certain issues between Europe and the United States?
To be honest, I see some differences which are logical and natural. but I don't see that standards are going to be this this kind of agreement. The European Union has standards, each country involved in the European Union has standards, and so do the United States. And it's not that if we create this agreement and create this trading space that all standards are going to be abolished and pretty much everybody or every company can do what they want. They will have to agree to certain standards in Europe as well as in the United States. And if anything, this combination of two different standards or many different standard system will make standards and customer protection stronger and not weaker.
And for instance, one of the things what I just mentioned, what we discussed before as well, there has been some talk about the chlorine chicken coming from the United States to Europe, or genetically modified foods that would flood our markets and would press our own corn out of the market. How do you think or what should be the democratic basis for this? Should it be between the European Union or the European Commission to negotiate these standards with the United States government, or should there be a separate kind of democratic level?
Me?
Yeah, for you, Benedict?
Well, let's take the example of the chlorine chicken. And let's put aside the fact that scientists have proven that this chlorine chicken, which basically means that chicken is, let's say, cleaned by not actually chlorine, but some kind of chlorine chemical combination, is healthier than the usual chicken we buy at a supermarket in Europe as well as in the United States. But it's not going to be the fact that company can do whatever they want. And it's not the moment this
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Benedict, but the connection at the moment is really bad. Could you repeat your last sentence?
The United States don't count anymore, and we have to that will see that basically completely.
Benedict, your connection at the moment is really bad. We didn't get the last part. Maybe Jeroen, you can give your view on the food standards, on what kind of principles would be involved there.
Well, I think it is important to have minimum standards, and one of the big issues in negotiating the TTIP agreement is actually the agreement about those minimum standards, and that's something that has been discussed for years right now. And I think it is important because, well, exactly this discussion that Benedict pointed on about the glorified chicken, or what do you call it, is one of these examples in which the United States and the European Union have different base levels on what is appropriate and what not. And without going into the details of this example, it proves that there are differences and that standards are needed to get them on the same level in order to allow businesses from as well the United States as from Europe to trade in chicken, by example. And I think how it should be is that there are minimum standards decided upon by politics. So the European Commission and the European Council on one side and the government of the United States on the other side. They make the minimum standards, and I think they should be they should fit in time, because I think that in 10 years we can look from a very different perspective on some standards than right now. I mean, check the discussion about telecommunication. It changed a lot in the last century. And that there should be this independent judge that can make binding agreements about those standards in the future, if there are that can make settlements. I think that's how it should be. And the big challenge right now is to get those standards straight.
I agree that the standard should be kept to a minimum to really involve the safety of products of the products that people can buy, and then we should give the opportunity to people in Europe to buy these chlorine chickens or other kind of products that might be genetically modified, in and not block them completely from the market. I mean, as liberals, we want to give people the opportunity of choice, and we perceive this choice to really empower people in making good decisions. Would you agree that I see Benedict is going in and out of the group chat, so I hope he will join again. But that this would be a really good opportunity to give to create more choice for European consumers.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it's about. Exactly what you say. It's minimum standards to prevent people from bad stuff, and the rest is also up to people themselves to make a choice. I mean, if you want to buy as a consumer a certain product with a certain just above minimum standard quality, well, that's up to you. If you ask me, as a liberal, I think that people should make their own choices, and if a lot of people don't want those just above minimum quality products, then companies will not produce them. So I think you should also be careful not to set the standards too high. I mean, not 150% above what's safe, because that's not fair competition. I think the role of the governments is to set minimum standards to take care of people's quality of life and their health, etc. And everything else is up to the individuals.
Yeah.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. Just one point I want to stress is that people are afraid of what might come to them, what might come to their supermarkets or their online services. It's not that TTIP abolishes any kind of regulation we have on an EU or national level in Europe. The laws we have are still intact. They still work and they still apply.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's definitely correct. By the way, for people, I see we have one viewer. I also posted on Twitter and on Facebook a link where you can join into the Hangout as well. Also for others, that's also a possibility to join into this discussion. One of the things that has been calculated also is that if we open the markets, it can mean that for every European household, it could generate up to 500 euros, and in the United States, even 650 euros per family of 4 people, just to have this open trade. And that's not only by generating more production and more export, but also lowering prices of products and giving a choice to really choose for either quality or quantity, and having these barriers and tariffs removed. What a huge benefit this will have for the economies. I would like to go to the next point, and that's about this standards that have to be harmonized and promoted. Because at the moment we see different standards in the EU and in the US. We see also a kind of working towards the best practices, especially in the financial markets, where these standards are becoming more and more international, because for these companies it is already so that for banks that they can be punished for things they do in Europe, even though it's due to US regulation. So we already see some kind of movement towards international standards. Maybe Benedict, how do you see the development of standards if there would be one United States European market?
I'll start with a small example. I work at a law firm, and about 2 weeks ago, we helped an Italian bank to offer their banking accounts to German and Estonian and Finnish citizens so they can invest money in Italy without any additional fees. This is pretty much the same on a more complicated and higher level. Nice regulations. Moments we harmonize jurisdiction and laws, it's going to be easier and most of all cheaper for everybody. So I think we have a long process ahead of us, and we can't even imagine the million little pieces we have to put together. But once we do, everybody's going to profit from it.
Yeah. I think this is also a good example of the concept of competition. I think that Adam Smith will be proud of us nowadays because this creates an opportunity for more companies to compete with each other. And I mean, why can it be that a US company provides better services and better products than the European companies? And why then can't you choose as a European citizen for those services or those products?
Yeah. Now, I remember from my classes in European economy and in economic integration.
Okay, I think that now
Timo
has
has
this.
having some difficulties. Yeah.
What do we do without the moderator?
No problem. One thing I just thought of was the North Atlantic Trade Agreement, which has been existing for, I think, over 20 years now, and is the most successful trading and economic cooperation story in the history of mankind. So I think we should see this as a role model. If we really get this TTIP thing, cooperation in the United States and Europe to work, we will, by statistics, beat that with a landslide. So we should see this as an opportunity and see in the past how agreement like this have generated growth and welfare for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. The point I wanted to make about the violin builders is that there were different standards on how the violin should be in the different countries, if you would look at the past. And that it was very difficult for him to sell his violins, for instance, in Germany, as the same violin which he would sell in the Netherlands, and he would really have to prove the standards there before he was allowed to do this. If we now take this even to a larger level, including the United States, it will not only mean that the big corporations will benefit, but also these very small specialized companies will have a much bigger market where to sell their products. And by harmonizing standards, maybe violins is not the best example, but for other issues where already a lot of standardization is taking place, it will have huge benefits, and in combination with removing the tariffs that are sometimes used or where safety is used as an excuse to keep products out. Now, with this TTIP, we will be able to really take this to a level where is it really that the chicken in the United States is unsafer than in Europe? Can we prove it? And can people benefit from the safety standards in Europe the same way which we can benefit from safety standards in the United States? And I think this is also one of the things that to go forward to the discussion on the ISDS, the investor-state dispute settlement that has been very hotly debated and has really brought people to enraged about that we would give up our democratic rights to corporations and that they will sue states to get their way, and that maybe Benedict, as a lawyer, you can maybe you've heard some insights about this as well, about the investor-state dispute settlement, not only in the TTIP but also in other trade agreements. I don't know if it's your specialty. Maybe you can give your view on that.
Well, I wouldn't say my specialty, but the point is that as liberals, we're always, let's say, a little skeptical of what the state might do. And we all agree that if the state takes too much power, that is not good for the individual. And one of the big questions in these globalized times, especially in the area of law, is who do I turn to if I get, let's say, screwed over by the state or some individual, some company? And the question is, if I take the example of TTIP, and I have, let's say, a German and an American corporation, and they get in a judicial fight, what kind of judicial system is this going to be taken out of? Is it the American or the German? And that's the interesting question, because it's completely different kind of laws, completely different kind of judicial system we have to deal with. But there have been proposals to find a compromise, to unify these ideas, and to give people the ability to speak up and to get their right if they are in the right. And that applies to states as well as to companies. And I think this is one of the tremendous points, because with all the advantages that come with the TTIP, there's a lot of risks. But we have to make sure that these risks are taken care of. And the ISDS is one of the most important parts of this taking care of mechanism.
Yeah, but maybe I think as soon as people see the advantages and experience them, and see that they actually benefit from TTIP a lot, it also enlargens the willingness to accept such a independent judge that works in both continents. I think right now in the Netherlands people are quite skeptical because of these discussions about food quality, because that's a scary thing. We already had some dramatic examples of that even within the Netherlands with our own legislation, and I think people are scared that this international cooperation will create even bigger possibilities for big companies to perform fraud, etc. But I think as soon as they see that there are bigger advantages and that it actually works, there's also more willingness to accept this independent judge on a bigger scale. And I think then people will also see that it's not necessarily worse, but maybe even better in terms of quality.
I think this is an important issue, because I mean the idea of ISDS is not new. Currently, it's one of the issues that in any international trade, where does the responsibility of one judicial system stops and where does the other one take over? Especially with shipping, which maybe we will go into as well in the session of Friday. If you have a container and you want to ship it from let's say the Netherlands to the United States, you bring it to the harbor. Is it at that time when it leaves your the area of your factory? Does it fall under the jurisdiction of the United States, or is it when it enters the ship, or is it when it enters when the ship is at sea and it leaves the Dutch territorial waters? Is it as soon as it enters the United States territorial waters? All these, if there is damage anywhere, or if there is a dispute on any what happened somewhere, it's very important to have this very clear. And as Jeroen, as you also suggested, one of the things is, should this be appointed to either the European or the United States judicial system, or do we see an opportunity here, or the necessity here, to have a kind of supreme Euro-American court? Benedict, how would you see that as a lawyer?
Well, I want to emphasize one point. I mean, the container example is good, but let's take the example of intellectual property. So things that are not actually physically there, but are, for example, on the internet, kind of patents and ideas. Lawyers in Europe as well as in the US have been struggling with that question for years. If a page I put on the internet in Germany leaves Germany and is popped up in the United States, what jurisdiction does it belong to? TTIP, and especially the ISDS regulation, will bring clearance to that, at least in the American, European context. And that gives a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs in the fourth economical sector, a lot of clearance on what they can do, what is actually their own, and what rights they're entitled to. So besides just economic trade that we think of in the first place, containers, goods, food, the example we had, this brings a lot of clearance in the area of intellectual property, which is growing every day on the entire planet, actually.
Yeah, one of the
I think it's also. Sorry, Timo.
To give you the what kind of scale this intellectual property actually is. Intellectual property intensive industries are 40% of the European GDP, and they employ directly 56 million people in Europe. I mean, if you look at indirectly and you double it, that means 100 million people in Europe are affected by this intellectual property intensive industries, where these disputes about who is the owner of the intellectual property or which judicial system is responsible for this intellectual property is where this scales. But Jeroen, you wanted to add something to this discussion as well.
Yeah, something. It's not necessarily an opinion, but just an open issue for me, because I'm not an expert on this topic. What about, by example, 3D printers? Right now they are still quite expensive. Maybe some fancy internet companies have them, but I think that maybe in 5 or maybe less years they will be available on a broader basis to normal people with not such a big bank account. So you can buy a 3D printer, and you can 3D print all kinds of different things just in your living room or in your office. So I think companies will start to develop maybe things to print. So you buy a concept from the internet, you download it to your 3D printer, and you print this stuff. How will this work within this common trading space? This is something that people do between themselves or between companies. Is this something that TTIP is also involved in?
One of the things that the intellectual property rights, I wanted to start with the physical part because it's so much simpler than intellectual property.
Yeah,
but
maybe it is.
Counterfeiting, creativity, concepts. Look at television concepts or on internet concepts, website concepts, Facebook. I mean, in the end, it's only a concept. There's not much really physically tangible products there. It's all software. It's very difficult to have, and that's also something which we saw where the European Union has been struggling with how to deal with these companies, how to deal with Google, with Facebook, with others that have a kind of monopoly in this open market where there are very little regulations because they can choose where they have their offices. But maybe Benedict, you have other insights here as well, as I expect.
Things. First of all, Jeroen, about the 3D printer thing, I think effects. In the first level, I think it won't be touched by the TTIP that much because, as you said, if everybody at some point or most people have a 3D printer at home, it's just going to be interesting for enterprises to hire their standards. Why would I buy a pencil in a shop for, I don't know, $1.42 if I can make my own at home? So that's going to challenge companies and enterprises to hire their standards and to make them more individualistic, more specialized. The other question, again, with the 3D printing, touches the intellectual property, because what's going to be interesting is not the pencil that I print with the printer, it's going to be the concept, the programming that stands behind that, that I have to buy to actually print that pencil. So I think, especially in this area, intellectual property rights and intellectual property rights protection is going to be more and more. That's one of the major aspects the TTIP and the ISDS deals with. So I think to sum this up, the conclusions step in advance, especially for the customers, who might one day have all their own 3D printers, as well as the entrepreneurs who come up with the programming code for the printers.
Yeah, it's. I think indeed this is one of it is the where intangible meets tangible, because then you will be able to create all kinds of tangible products at home. The only thing is you use intangible concept ideas, intellectual properties to create this. I think this is also one of the things that TTIP will have to deal with, because this will evolve over the coming period. That I mean, printing food even has been suggested. It's something which if we don't get it right now, it could be really, really difficult to fix this later on.
Yeah,
Sure.
maybe the technical abilities will actually be faster than TTIP.
That depends on. I hope we are quicker this time.
Why?
But let's see. Yeah, one of the things is also that in international investment, because we've gone into trade a lot, I think also in the investment part, one of the key important issues for liberals is private property and also the protection of property. It's one of the what all liberals basically agree on, is that the state should protect the property of individuals. The investment part or investment, one of the things is that the protection of investments in any state. It also touches on the ISDS, investor state. It's this interaction a lot, but opening markets in Europe for companies from the United States. Are you afraid that that corporations will take over and force themselves into our daily lives? Jeroen?
No, I'm not afraid of that. I think in the end it's also people that want to make a decision, and I'm very sure that if a certain corporation takes over a certain market, that there will always be a competitor that challenges them and makes a better product for a cheaper price, maybe. I mean, look at the smartphone. I think that BlackBerry was one of the first really popular smartphones on the market. I remember having several BlackBerries myself. Perfect phones back then. But all of a sudden, the iPhone popped up. And the iPhone was a brilliant smartphone.
Okay, we had server error there. Let's wait.
Okay,
See
so
it.
are we back?
Yeah, I think Jeroen is almost back. We are back at least, and then
Okay.
was some kind of server error there. So fortunate, but that can also still happen.
On the question you just asked, you mind if I
No, sure.
propose something?
Please continue. Then you wait till Jeroen is back.
I think Jeroen is back, but we can't hear him. But still, think back on the financial crisis that started in 2008, which started with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the Bank of America in the United States. We found out a little later that most European banks, at least the big ones, may it be British or French or German or Dutch, actually had a whole involvement in that customers from these banks, let's say the Deutsche Bank in Germany, bought investment packages from these banks to get higher profits. And then later, when customers lost their fortune and their money, they all said, we didn't know. We didn't know that we invested in the United States in these mortgage proposals and whatnot. I think this will get better with the TTIP because people have the opportunity to invest directly in and easier in, let's say, American investments, and then they know all the risks. Back in 2008 and before, that was a three-way street. I gave my money to my German bank, which invested in an American bank, which invested in an American mortgage conglomerate, and so on and so on. These things will get less and less likely as soon as we have the opportunity that every individual can invest in American or French investment packages as they please and actually read the small print and understand what they're getting into.
Yeah, it also reminds me of something which I learned when I started following the stock market. If something sounds too good to be true, it might just be too good to be true. And I think a lot of people thought that the sky was the limit and there was no way the stock markets could go down anymore. And as with all bubbles, they were put back on the ground, and some of them harder than would have been appropriate. Jeroen is having some difficulties with his microphone, so he will be right back. We also see that Zubair is joining. Welcome. You don't have a microphone, but you can use the chat on the right side, and we will also be able to use your feedback in this. One of the things is, I mean, the investors. Europe is one of the biggest, or is the biggest investor in the world by far. Europe has more than 4 trillion euros in stock outstanding outside of the EU, and to protect these all these investments, European member states have made over 1,400 investor state dispute settlement agreements in their bilateral investment treaties. So to say it is something new is probably not appropriate. It's just saying it would become obvious, because this is probably one of the first times that we actually feel that we are working with somebody that's at the same level, or that might just take over our standards. And also the example of the banking, I think, Benedict, you have a very valid point there, because if we would have had the same standards in the United States as in Europe, as Germany would have with other countries, would all have the same standards in banking, they probably would have been higher than where the first banks collapsed.
Exactly. And if you look, example, for the foreign policy scale we talk about every day in the newspapers and on the news, that says we have to get independent from Russian gas, and we have to get more independent from oil from the Arab countries, because these countries, as sad as it is, are politically too unstable for us to rely on.
No.
I think the TTIP is the number one step we have to take. And if we want to get independent from Russia and from the Arab world, I'm not saying we should abandon all relationships with them, but we have to make sure, the Europeans as well as the Americans, we have to make sure that we're secure when it comes to energy supply. And I think this is the number one step we have to take. And we're so close. The discussions have been going on for years, and what we are in now are the final adjustments we have to make to actually get this project running. And it would be a shame, and it would be horribly for all the economies involved if this project broke in at the end.
Let's see, I'm trying to get Jeroen's microphone to work, but that doesn't seem to work.
It doesn't look like it, no.
No. Jeroen, you will have to type. Zubair was joining, by the way, from Turkey. Unfortunately, he has limited access, and he was just listening. You're very welcome to continue listening. We will also post this on YouTube and later on our website, where you can also listen to this or see this later on. If you have other comments, also there will be the possibilities to post comments. In one of the things is that this investment where we are which we seem to be so afraid of, as Zubair is joining again. One of the things where we really think, or where I really think it's very should also realize, is that with TTIP we are setting a new standard of free trade agreement. And this, if we get this right, this will be the new standard for free trade agreements all over the world. The United States has set the standard with the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, prohibiting all over the world the sponsoring of failed states and or other kinds of fraud and gift giving are now under control, and people are actually being sued for sponsoring failed states. I think this free trade agreement could set a standard for also our relations with, for instance, with Russia or with other countries like China or with Japan, and we could see if we also implement the correct democratic principles in this, and that also includes the prohibition of TTIP, of the ISDS to go against the democratic rights of a country. I think ISDS is especially meant to prevent countries from taking measures that try to protect the companies from their own country, instead of giving a level playing field to anybody who invests in this country and giving everybody the same rights. It's also a movement which we've seen happening in other countries, and I think this would be really something where also for future generations, where we could really set a basic standard to go forward with.
To make that comparison to a historical example, because I think the level playing field is exactly the point we should be focusing on. If you take Germany in the early 1800s, which consisted of more than 100 states and municipalities, traders from the north to the south, for example, had to go through 29 times customs and duties, and even if they paid all that money to the state or the states they went through, still had different measures. So it was impossible to do trade the way we do today. And this is exactly the same if on a global level. If we unify standards, if we unify measures, and I'm not talking about that we have meters in the United States, you still use inches and feet, but if we unify standards and make contributions and duties we have to pay to the state less and less, this will open the market to a whole new range of possibilities, not only for corporations like Siemens in Germany or the Bank of America, but also to the individual in each of the countries involved.
Yeah, definitely, and also I think we went into the difference between intellectual properties and the services on the one side, and the products and trade or the trade of products on the other side. I think that this for services to be implemented on both sides, it's one of the things where also within Europe we are having more difficulty. I will switch off the light again, by the way. It's too. Where we also see that within Europe we have difficulty of setting common standards for services, where historically there have been differences growing on how we educate or how we train our the specialists we have, how we train the lawyers, the accountants, the doctors, architects, engineers, and still trying to get a certain standardized level of minimum what we expect from everybody, I think would be a huge step forward. I see Jeroen is posting that he thinks that TTIP could set a great standard for free trade. If it works well, why not involve more countries and regions later on, like Canada, Japan, Australia, Brazil, India? There will be an even greater opportunity for international trade, and I can only fully agree with Jeroen on that point. And I think it will also, because it will be such a huge economic power, we can also set democratic standards for countries that want to join this free trade area. If state-controlled companies would enter this market, it would be detrimental to the whole system, because you would have one party that is has a benefit in compared to all the others that are in the same market. One of the things about the services, what people in Europe don't realize, is that there are more than 50 different authorizations to open businesses in the United States. If you are, for instance, a doctor, you have to, or especially lawyer. I think lawyers even more. Not only you have to be registered. I think it's called registered at the bar to be allowed to be a lawyer in a certain state. I see Benedict will probably return quite soon. Since he is our legal expert, we might ask him what he knows about this. Oh, he's joining again. Let's wait till he's back.
I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
No problem. In the United States, so if you want to be a lawyer in one of the 50 states, there are different standards there. It's also for other services there are differences. We think in Europe we have a very complicated system, but I think on the other hand, on the other side, also for a German lawyer to be able to work anywhere for in any state of the United States would also be a great benefit for unifying legal systems. Or do you see that as a different issue?
Absolutely not. Well, law might not be the best example. As well, we get this unified law system now in a way, but still law in the United States, as well as in Britain, France, Germany, Finland, is very difficult. But let's take any other job or any other degree we might get from universities. In Europe, it has taken us almost 30 years to unify these degrees. Some of them still are not. Some of them still are not even inside the individual countries, but we've taken a great leap forward. If I want to do my master's degree in Hungary today, I can, and it will be accepted in all the other European countries involved. And I think TTIP doesn't include this educational policy in the first place. It will ground the path to that, because if we have a unified American-European market, it's only a matter of time until a unified educational degree you might earn is a necessity to enter this market. So if this opens European universities and higher schools to the American market and vice versa, I think that is one of the best things we can ever achieve, which comes actually, I don't want to say for free, but as an automatic conclusion from this trade agreement. So that's one more point to be all in favor of the TTIP.
Yes, definitely. I see Ivan Brantjev has posted some comments on YouTube. Thank you for that. I will go through a few of them. Indeed, the ISDS is not something new. It's meant to compensate developed or developing countries' lack of legal certainty, and to have kind of legal protection, and that's definitely true. And also that let's see, where's another one? The problem with ISDS and protection of investment under the TTIP is that ISDS proceedings are extremely expensive. ISDS does not provide the level playing field for small and medium companies, and is a legal framework just for big companies, unfortunately. I think that on the one hand side, it's true. I mean, you see already you see that the big companies are able to or have a lot more legal opportunities. So, and this would only put it to an even larger scale. And in principle, if multiple small and medium-sized companies fight the same problem, they also benefit from big companies taking it up for them. So it's not only the big companies benefiting, it's also that the big companies are setting the standard there. And definitely there should be, it should not only be a very complicated, expensive system, but we should also have a proper level of acceptance and entry for smaller companies or even individuals to use this proceedings if they find themselves to be treated unfairly in comparison to other companies from that state. Let's see, and then I also
Also,
see, sorry, yeah, Benedict.
also, let's assume we actually get this TTIP on the road and get this to work. This doesn't mean we're done. Um, Something this big in that area has never been tried before, and we would be kidding ourselves to say this, the moment we get it on the road, it's without mistakes. It's going to take a couple of years to actually get this right, especially for small enterprises and businesses. Not with the big ones. They have the lawyer and the capacity to work through all these wormholes in the legislation. But it's going to take us a while to get this right for small businesses, for individuals. But I think it's worth it in the end. I mean, we all had to do it on a state level when all our states and nations were founded. And I think most of the nations, the U.S. especially, but also the European states have done a tremendous job, and we've done a tremendous job on a European level. And I think we shouldn't be afraid. We should be excited about the possibilities this gives, aware of the consequences and difficulties we might hit, but we shouldn't be afraid. We've done this before, and if we all work together, it's going to be in the interest of everybody.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also see Jeroen has posted that he also agrees that it might fit that the morality follows the economy, that if countries are able to participate in TTIP and benefit from it, they might also provide opportunities for obtaining more intellectual resources for building a more democratic and free society. I think it's I agree with you as well, Jeroen. I think that economy is one of the biggest leverages we have, and the development that Europe and the United States has made over the last 50, 60 years, one of the biggest leverages we have in also getting other states to opening their societies to individual and the individual freedoms that come with it. I also saw that Ivan has also to follow up on the previous point about that the level playing field should really be one of the key issues what we strive for, and that it also is one of the things that European Commissioner Malmström has stressed, that there should be a kind of standing court for the settlement of trade and investment or investor-state disputes as a mid-term objective. It's not something that we are able to do immediately, but it is one of the things that we should really focus on and trying to get this right. He also said that let's see, the standing global court for investment protection would be even a next step, although more difficult since this would include also other countries. But again, as the United States has shown with their fighting corruption and their fight against corruption, if we set the standard, the rest of the world will follow. Or as I think one of the previous campaigns of the liberal students in Germany was, move your mind and your ass will follow. If we set our minds to this and we do it right, we will get others to follow us and get into this direction, and then next steps will follow automatically. But first we have to get moving in the direction before we can reach this goal. I see Ivan is writing something else. Benedict, do you have anything to ask to add to this point? Because otherwise I would like to try and get to a roundup of this discussion and then close this meeting.
Please do. I'm running out of time a little bit, so I don't mind if you do.
Okay, because let's see then, Ivan. Yeah, I think it's. I think to round up, we went through the. We started with what TTIP is and what the potential benefits are. We went through some of the issues like safety standards for instance, for foods, but also for other areas. We went through the ISDS as one of the points that where there's uncertainties, but where certain where the framework is currently being built for a worldwide standard of ISDS settlements or a kind of court. And let's see, there's also that further harmonization between the EU and the US on both standards and also products, services is really important to make to get the maximum benefit from TTIP, and that it is a long road, as we've seen within Europe, where still we are trying to get certain minimum standards all over Europe, and we have differences not only between countries but sometimes even within countries still, and which is fine, by the way. It is fine because those are the democratic rights we have, but a certain standardized minimum level would really benefit us all. If I have not been complete or if I left certain parts out, I apologize. I'm really looking forward to continuing this debate in Rotterdam. Also, those that view this later, I'm really hoping to see you there and welcome you to the Netherlands. We will make sure to also follow up on some of the questions on TTIP, on other issues, and we will try to make this a regular meeting where we have the opportunity to debate without being physically present at the same place, but using the new media to their maximum benefit. I see Jeroen is posting that he is thanking all of us. I think this was a great way to discuss politics despite some technical difficulties. I agree with you, Jeroen, and hopefully we will be able to optimize our participation, and hope that Google will be able to optimize the technology. Really looking forward to seeing you again, and also Zubair, thank you for joining, and hope to see you again next time. Thank you, and this is all. We will stop the broadcast. Thank you.